Hi, Granddaddy.
Hi.
How are you this week?
About the same as last week, maybe a little better,
A little better.
you know. So, but they had these. Uh, they made guys. They said they made this one guy who was older than most of us. He was like, we were all 18, 19. I was just 18, 18 and a half by this time, and there was a guy who was like 20. You're the company commander. You know, he gave him a stripe. It was meaningless. It didn't carry over. It's just a boot camp stripe. And then he made this other guy, a big guy, the master of their arms, and he made this guy. And the master of their arms, they were from Brooklyn or whatever. They had all electrical school too, but I was the only one that got AB. The only two of us got A. There was like 13 guys from Brooklyn that had graduated from an electrical course in
Mm.
Brooklyn, and only one of them made it as an aviation electrician. And they were all mad at me because I put down as my second choice, and they all had aviation as their first choice. I
Right.
said, you should have put down CB.
Yeah.
so, so anyway, the one guy in charge, who was a guy from Brooklyn who had graduated from the school, and I got, he was always being a funny guy too, but that now that he made him the master of their arms, you had to be serious. And I made some kind of a joke or something like that. I think maybe I talked when we were marching, and he put me on work detail. Oh
The
man!
power went to his head immediately.
So he goes, "All right, here you got to report here." I said, "Okay." So I got to report to this building. I go into that building. I walk in. It was the Gidonk, which the Gidonk in the Navy is the candy store. It's like I walked into the thing, and everybody's eating, having sodas, smoking, because we weren't allowed to smoke. I was a smoker at the time. We weren't allowed to smoke unless they said, smoking lamp is lit. And he goes, yeah. And we used to joke about it because they had no idea what they were talking. He goes, okay, guys, you can coke and smoke now. We
Mhm.
all laugh. Coke and smoke. Hey, where's the coke? You got the smoke.
That's right.
The Navy didn't know it. We were having inside jokes. They said, okay, the smoking and coking lamp is lit, so you can go have a
Right. Could have
Coca-Cola.
a soda.
You can have a soda and a cigarette.
So
And
thinking
we're
about
all
some
like,
hard
oh
drugs.
boy. so, so, so they sent me on this work detail, and now I had to sit there until everybody was done. And then I had to clean up and put all clean the tables and put set the chairs up and everything like that. But while I was there, I could smoke. I could buy food. I could, I'm like, oh, this is great. So I figured out, and then another time, I uh, I did it. These are by accidents. I mean, I knew I didn't care. I got in trouble because I figured what the work because the working detail you could go on and you're digging ditches somewhere or something. The next work detail I went on was the movie theater. So in the movie theater was the movie, The Green Berets with John Wayne. So I got to watch the movie. I sat in the back of the movie theater, and then when it was over, I had to fold up all the chairs. And
Right,
I'd
right.
come back and tell guys, "Yeah, I was at the Gidonk. I was doing this. I was at a movie." So, and and then I found out that they posted what the work detail was in the morning.
Uh-huh.
So I would go and check the post and see what kind of a work detail is. Oh, I'll keep my mouth shut today. If I looked at it, I said, "Oh, that's a good work detail." I made sure I got caught talking in the ranks by our so-called master of arms, and he would give me the work. Then he figured out what I was doing, and he stopped giving me work details. So that was my. Oh yeah. When you're in boot camp too, they give you a piece. I had night guard duty, and they said stand in front of your barracks, the door. There was two guys. One, I was at one side, another guy was at another side. Where the doors were closed, and I'm
Mhm.
in like a hallway, standing watch over the barracks. and the master of arms or the officer of the day would come around and go to each area just to make sure everything was good. And he would open the one door and he'd come in and I'd say, "Holt, who goes there?" And he'd say, "Oh, I am the officer of the day, blah, blah." Okay. Or I'd say, he'd halt and I said, "Come forward and identify yourself." And he'd come forward. And well, after a while you get lazy about it. I've done this watch before, and I'm standing there with my piece, and the guy walks in. I go, "Holt, who goes there?" He doesn't stop, and you're supposed to say, "Holt, who goes there," 3 times before he can do anything. And there's only like the hallway was only like 8 feet wide, from
Right.
door to door, and he just rushed along the thing before I could get out. Holt, who goes there? I just started it the second time. I figured, well, maybe he didn't hear me right, and he grabbed my piece and he tried to take it away from me.
Mm.
Had he been able to take, I would have had to jump him. I guess I wouldn't have though. But once if they take your piece,
Yeah.
he then they remove it, and now you got the next day, you don't have a piece. Wouldn't have been too big for me because I didn't have to carry a piece
Yeah,
when I
this
was marching, but,
yeah.
he couldn't grab it out of my hands. He was, and I was so PO'd, and I knew he wouldn't do it again, but if he did, I said, "If he comes at me again and tries," because if he came at me and grabbed it like this, all I had to do was move him because I was holding it like this. All I had to do was move it and hit him in the chin with my butt of the piece. But so that was my move. If he tries that again, he's going to get a butt in his chin. But he didn't. Of course, he stopped right away.
Mhm.
I guess he knew they would be waiting for him.
Mhm.
But I don't know if he caught anybody else in any of the other groups. But I mean, like this guy was also he was just another boot camper. This guy was
Oh,
in
yeah.
the same battalion
Right.
as I was. He was in a different company, so just trying to get you in trouble,
Mm.
Yeah, but and the test in the navies, I thought was like the easiest thing in the world. They would have these, they would give you these tests. It was always multiple choice, and
Is this like a
what
these like a psychological evaluations or this
all kind whatever it's called. They
electrical
would give you
test?
like a class. Here's what we do, yeah, and like what does the flag upside down mean? It means you're in distress, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And then there was other just like normal things. Maybe they give you a test on identify the tools, and they would say, which one is the adjustable wrench? And there'd be adjustable wrench down there, and you hit B or
Right.
whatever. And being I worked in the gas station, my father had every single kind of tool you could figure out. He was not only an electrician. He did electrical work, he did carpentry work, he was a TV repairman. When he was a kid, he built his own crystal radio. He would have been a nerd if he was alive when I was going to school because he would have had the computer classes and all that other stuff. So,
Mm.
uh, but I knew. In fact, that was like one of the. I don't know. I might have even said this. He sent my brother Billy to get a screwdriver.
Phillips head screwdriver.
And
Yeah.
he says, get me the Phillips screwdriver." So my brother goes and gets the screw, brings it back. My father throws it across the room. Said, "I said the Phillips screwdriver." And my brother turned around and he goes, "How do I know which one he named after himself?" Because my
Mm.
father's name was Philip. So my brother's thinking, which screwdriver would my father name after himself? He finally got the right one, but we pretty much knew, he would go out and help him in the middle of the night working on the cars. He'd give me the box wrench. The box wrench. What the hell is a box wrench? Learned what the tools were because he didn't want to get yelled at. And I have a younger brother, Kevin. He used to say, "You know what I used to do when Mom sent us out to help Dad?" I'd say, "Dad, you want a cup of coffee?" And he'd go, "Sure." He says, "I would leave and I would hang out and make a cup of coffee for like 15 minutes before I went back." Yeah, I should have thought of that. But my father would always say, you know, you go out, I'd say, Dad, you need any help? He goes, did Mom send you out here to help me? And I always said, yeah, because
Mhm.
I didn't think of it on my own. He goes, if Mommy sent you, I don't want your help. I said, okay, good for me. And then I go back in the house. My mother says, what are you doing in here? Dad said he doesn't want my help. What do you mean he doesn't want? He said, if you sent me, and then my mother would go out there,
Yeah,
and my father and mother would get into an argument. The next thing you know,
you're out there
I'm
anyway.
holding the drop light. Can you hold the drop light? Not in my eyes. So I had to, make sure the drop light was on the job and not, shade of it was in his eye. So I knew all the tools, but the tests were pretty easy. And when they would usually when they have a thing, it's in the Navy test, if it said, is it A, B, C, D, or all of the above? It usually was all the above.
Yeah, a lot of those
Yeah.
tests have that.
So and they were easy that way. And it was like even one of the other ones that weren't all of the above, you could eliminate two answers immediate without even thinking. But it always came down to a 50-50 chance. I only failed one test while I was in the Navy, and I didn't believe him, and I couldn't believe I failed. I must have been very close. It was you had to take a pre-test. I wanted to take my third class petty officer test right after I finished aviation school. So I had to take this pre-test. And that was the one where, it was like the Navy flag, the American flag up upside down is distress. And it was like, you would have the alphabet, alpha, beta, gamma, whatever. You had to know the proper ones and,
Right.
which one is for G,
With all
whatever.
these nautical flags and stuff like that.
What?
Did you need to know all the nautical flags?
Yeah, but they didn't have too much of that signals. You had to know some of the signals and some of the things. So that test I failed. I must have just failed it. And I didn't believe when they told me I failed, I didn't believe it. So I went to take the test anyway for
Hmm.
first, for my third class petty officer test. And I wasn't on the list. And my chief told me I wasn't on it. You failed this test. I said, that can't be true. So before I went to work, I stopped at the thing and I said, am I on there? And they go, no. Crap. So then I went to work and I was like 10 minutes late. And the
Right.
chief said, where were you? I said, I stopped at the thing. I should have just said, I don't know why I told them the truth. I should have said, I have no excuse. That's the only excuse you can have. I said, I went to check to see if I was on the list. And the next thing I know, I was charging batteries in the
Mm.
Navy. Boom. He goes, you're going to the battery locker. I'm on a base now. It's all helicopters. It's aviation. They were teaching officers how to fly helicopters. They had officers from all around the world coming here. So there's more officers. There's almost as many officers as there was enlisted. Constantly saluting. But in the Navy, if you took your hat off, you didn't have to salute. So you'd go as soon as you got into the building, you'd on cover. And so now I don't have to salute. And I was talking to the Marine guy today, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I remember that. Because the Marines have to salute when they're uncovered, but the Navy doesn't. So we'd walk in there, and they would get like, we didn't salute them. They would like, well, that's right. The Navy doesn't have to salute if they don't have their hats on
Mhm. Right.
if they're uncovered. Oh yeah, you had to learn. Yeah, that was the other thing. The bulkhead. You had the scuttlebutt, the poop deck, the
Mhm.
anchor. You had to know all
Right. All
these
the parts of the ship.
parts of the ship and stuff. You had to learn knots, all the Navy knots and tying knots, I can still tie some of them, but I don't know what they're called. But, and I still, to this day, still have, I have to think about the square knot because the granny knot is so easy
Hmm.
to do. So, so,
See that, Granny? There's a knot after you.
so I was, I'm in the thing, and then I found out while I'm charging batteries. They had me on the night shift, So there was 2 hangars. One hangar had a night shift, one hangar did not. And the battery locker was in the hangar that did not have a night shift, and all they had was a watchman who changed every, I think it was it 4 hours? 4-hour watch. Because I know everybody used to talk about, "Hey, hey, used to hate the, daylight savings time, in the spring in the fall
Right.
because you fell back, and, you gotta stay an hour longer on
Yeah,
watch."
yeah.
But in the spring, you had an hour less because you
Right, right.
sprung forward. Started out, they were lead acid, and then they changed to nickel cadmium, while I was there. And you're only supposed to do it for 6 months, but I enjoyed the job so much, I did it for 8 months. I never complained. They
Mhm.
finally threw me off of it. But, I'm in the battery locker, and I started reading books and mostly science fiction type things and everything, and so I thought to myself, "You know what?" There was 3 stations, televisions you could, stations you could get. I said, "I'm gonna get a small portable TV and put it in the locker." So I got myself a small TV, and it was small enough that when you took the batteries out of the box,
Mhm.
my portable TV would fit in the box. Didn't fit, it was kind of a tight squeeze,
Okay.
but if I put another box of batteries on top of it, you couldn't tell.
Okay, right.
So I'd always hide it in the middle of the battery that would move the first 2 things and then put it down there, and that's where it was. And I would watch TV at night, and while I'm charging the batteries. Because all you did was sit around, wait, you go, "Hey, you gotta add water, you gotta test the things." It took you did like an hour's worth of work, and you had to sit there for 8 hours, brought in the TV. And then the night watchman started, they'd be there, "Oh, you got a TV?" And I said, "Yeah, you wanna watch it?" They come The night watchman would come and watch TV with me. And but
Very secure.
somehow the word got out that I had a TV in the locker. So it was it wasn't like known out loud, but it was like whispers. So there was a guy in the base. I was no longer assigned. I was originally assigned to the squadron, HT8, and now I was assigned to the base, NAS Ellison. So in the squadron, you take the broken piece out of the helicopter, and in the base, you repair it or junk it. So I'm in the battery locker, and I had friends in the I says, "Hey, Leroy Swift he was a second class petty officer. He was in charge of the battery locker and immediately in charge of me." So I said, "Whenever Leroy leaves the room, leaves the hangar, give me a call at the battery locker." So they called me once, and Leroy's on there. He hated being called Leroy. He hated, but he wanted to be called Swift. So they go, "Yeah, Leroy's on the prowl." I said, "Okay." So I take my TV and I hide it. And he comes in, and I'm leaning against, my seat, an office chair, and I'm charging the battery. He walks in and says, "Hey, Leroy, how you doing?" I mean, Swift. I didn't call him Leroy. Called him Leroy behind his back. "Hey, Swift, how you doing?" All the brothers on the base called him Leroy, though they didn't like him.
Mhm.
Swift. Leroy Swift was African American, and all the African American brothers, nobody liked him. Most of the white guys didn't like him, and most of the black guys didn't like him. He was hard ass, I guess they would say. So anyway, he walks into the locker room, and he goes, starts looking around. He's opening drawers, going behind things. I said, "Something the matter, Swift? Is you looking for something? Is there anything I can help you?" He goes, "I heard that you have a TV in here." "A TV? What a great idea!" "Hey, don't get," he goes, and I start yelling at me, "Don't get any ideas. You get a TV in here and I'll bust you." I said, "Well, it sounds like a really good idea." Meanwhile, I had the TV in there, and it was shortly after that I was
Signs of
out of the
wisdom.
battery locker, and I
What
had
happened to your
actually,
D what happened to your TV?
yeah, my TV. I put it in my room. What happened was, I think what happened was why I got out of the locker is the 6 months later I could take the test. I took the other test that I failed. I could take the test for my third class petty officer.
Right.
So I took that. And like I say, electricity was like, I could breeze through an electrical test and all the questions were electrical on the thing, but it counted for jets, uh, prop jobs, and helicopters, the whole test. But it was electrical, so I had no problem. Boom. I did really well on the test and I was promoted to third class petty officer. Meanwhile, I'm still in the battery locker. So they take me out of the battery locker and put me in the, you can't have a third class, but this is, you were only supposed to be there for 6 months. It was a punishment job. I said, why didn't you say something? I says, what for? I was enjoying myself.
Did you say that?
Yeah. I said, why would I speak up?
Like,
I wasn't having, I didn't have any,
mine is not to,
I didn't have any
question why,
problem.
mine is just to do or die.
Yeah.
You told me to do it, I was just doing it.
I had no problem. I was the best battery locker guy there. So, and the batteries everything was individual. There were all cells. So it was a 2-volt cell. So I think there was 24 volts. You had to have two 12-volt batteries I guess, series, uh, to get to 24 volts. And so I would have to take them apart and take out the bad. When it was lead acid, I would take out the bad cell, and then when it was nickel cadmium, you'd have to check all the things out and find out the bad cell, take that out, and replace the bad cell with a good cell. And they're back online, and then they had new batteries too. So they took me out of that, and now I'm in the working days. They put me on days, and I'm this third class petty officer. So now I'm in charge of the guys doing the work there because they had a second class petty officers and first class petty officers and the chief, but they just drank coffee basically. They didn't do a lot of work. They were like, they were quote unquote supervisors.
Right.
So and we had to do the work. Now, I loved electricity and I loved troubleshooting. So a thing would come out off the thing and I would fix it. Boom. And I have it. That's it. Boom. And fix it. And the other guys would be stuck and I'd go over there. I'd test their thing. Oh, replace the capacitor there. The other guy, what about it? Replace this. That's what's wrong with it. And then it developed into the point where when the job started, there would be the pile of everything that needed to be fixed. I would test it and say, this thing needs
Right.
a new motor. This one needs a new
You're doing all the
transformer.
diagnostics.
Yeah, I was doing all the tests, and these guys, and I handed it to the guys and the other guys, and they would just
They would do the
change.
work, right.
They would change the piece and put it. Then we test to make sure it was working. And what happened was, I still was getting in trouble because I would come in late because I'd go. I had a car. Very few guys had a car. Partying at night. Come back to the base. Sometimes like 3, 4 in the morning, and I had to be at work at like 7 or something like or 8. I guess 7. I'm not sure what time we actually had to be. And if I got there 5 minutes late, the chief wanted to. Like first thing they did was they said, you have to come in earlier now and make the coffee. No longer you have to be here before,
4/7.
before everybody else to make coffee. That lasted 2 times because I didn't make the coffee strong enough. The first time they told me, this tastes like tea. I said, all right, I'll make it stronger next time. It's still not strong enough. And they said, you have to put that. I said, I can't make coffee. That's mud. That's not coffee. That's the way we want it. I said, well, I can't make it that way. Well, you're off. They threw me off the coffee making thing because they wanted a nice cup of mud in the morning. That's what we used to say. You know how you could tell the chiefs in the Navy when they're not in uniform? They're the ones walking around like this, like their finger holding
They're
a
used
cup.
to holding a cup of mug.
So, so now when I came in, the chief goes, that's it. You're going to have to clean the head, the bathroom. So in the hangar, there was this bathroom that had like maybe, 4 or 5 urinals and 4 or 5 toilets and sinks. And he goes, I want this thing cleaned. So he didn't know that I seen the movie No Time for Sergeants. So if you don't know about that, and Andy Griffith is a great movie, funny movie. He's in the Air Force, and he does such a good job cleaning the bathroom that his DI makes him the permanent latrine orderly. And he says, you don't have to take any tests, do anything. You just hang here and clean the bathrooms. So I said, well, that's what I'm going to do. And I went in there and I started shining that bathroom. I was cleaning it. And I was singing. I was whistle away. I'm singing songs. And the chief come in and I said, hey, chief, how you doing? And I was having a great time cleaning the bathroom. And he says, you got to come back to the shop. I said, what's the matter? He goes, nobody knows what to do. I said, what do you mean nobody? They said, you always tell them what to do. So so the chief was, he wasn't that bad. I thought he was a little flaky, but at the time, he was a nice guy, really. And so he sends me back in to do
Diagnostics.
the stuff. And what happened was, then he says, from now on, Rogers, when you do something wrong where I have to punish you, I'm punishing one of your friends. And I looked at them, and they all looked at me like, oh, you. Then one time, he had me climb up above the drop ceiling and clean the dust off the air conditioning vents,
The ductwork?
the ducts. So I climb up there, and I'm cleaning it, and the ceiling tiles are open. And anytime anybody walked under, I threw a bunch of dust down on them. I didn't care who it was. Oh, I'm sorry about that. The chief there. I'm sorry, I didn't notice you were going by.
You just like collect it on the side and wait for somebody.
So I got fired from that job, and
He got it in the coffee.
yeah, I got fired from making the coffee, from cleaning the bathrooms, from cleaning the ducts, and that's when they decided they were going to punish my friends.
I meant that you got the dust in their coffee because
Yeah. Throw some duck, and then I got caught with long hair. And what happened was, like, I started hanging out with a lot of the brothers on the job in the Navy. It's like I was doing, I was smoking. The Navy said, would always say, there's no drug problem in the Navy. And we'd always agree. I never had any problem getting drugs when I was in the Navy. So, so, one time, while I was hanging out with the brothers and doing things, and we'd go out, and these guys go out during the day. Their hair is nice and short. At night, they go out and they had these afros. I go, how the hell are you guys getting such long hair? Well, you gotta pat it down, and you wear
real tight kink in it. Yeah, it's the curls.
You wear they had stockings. They were wearing stockings,
Overnight.
keep the hair down, and then they would wear sort of like oversized hats, because we had ball caps in the Navy. You also had the squidlets, the white ones, but mostly you wore it was a baseball cap, a blue baseball type cap.
So they got ones that were a little big.
I said, oh, wow, that's really good. So,
and then they'd pick it out at night and get some volume to it.
So I started growing my hair long, and I would comb it up and fold it over in the back, and I would put an oversized baseball cap on my head that covered all around, right over to my ear, right on top of my ears. Problem is, in the Navy, if you don't want to salute, you have to uncover. So I stopped uncovering. I used to uncover as soon as I walked into a room, so I wouldn't have to salute the officers. Now I was saluting everybody and anybody that wanted to get saluted,
right?
Because I was keeping my my ball cap on. And then one day something happened. I got in trouble again. And the chief and Swift are there, the chief's yelling at me about something. I can't remember. And while I was hanging out with the brothers, I met Swift on the outside. He saw my hair. He looked at me. He goes, I won't say anything. I don't care what you do. Later, and I used to put Vaseline in the hair to keep it pat down, and I had the hat on, and I got into this discussion with the chief, got a little heated, and I said something that wasn't appropriate for an officer and a gentleman, for an enlisted man to say, whatever. So Swift was next to me, grabbed my hat off, and nothing happened. My hair stayed in place because it was all combed up, and Vaseline was packed on it. So he hit it, and he hit it like 3, 4, 5 times, and all of a sudden my hair came down. It was like over my,
Droopy.
And the chief's eyes bugged up. Oh my goodness! And the chief goes, I don't want you to come in. It was Friday afternoon. He goes, I don't want you to come in Monday morning unless you have a haircut. I said, okay, chief. And I went AWOL.
He didn't come in.
I went home for a week. And then I came back with my brother Billy, and he wanted to go to Mardi Gras, which was in a couple of weeks. But he was stationed in a base in Pensacola also, not in the actual Pensacola base. We were in Ellison, which was 15 minutes away from Pensacola's base, the main base. And he had got discharged from there, so he still knew friends there. It was only later or something. So he goes, I'll drive down there with you and we'll go to Mardi Gras. I said, okay, if I don't get, in trouble for going AWOL. So I get back to the base.
You had your haircut.
I had a haircut, got myself a haircut. I show up at the base. Now at the base, again, this is like, it's almost like me being in boot camp. The guys in charge were all ensigns. The officer of the day was an ensign. He was a guy who's learning how to fly. So he didn't know. And I show up, he was the officer of the day. And I show up at it was Sunday night, 8 o'clock or something like that. And I walk into his office and say, I'd like to report myself for AWL. He goes, what? He says, I've been AWL. I've been out for a week. He goes, oh, you are? Yeah, I'd like to, I want to put myself on report. He goes, oh, what do I do? I don't know. He goes, I said, well, I think you charged me with, I can't remember the article. You charged me with Article 341 or whatever it was. And then you can do whatever security you want, restricting me to base, whatever. Oh, that's a good idea. I'm putting you on report for AWL, whatever. And he goes, and you are hereby restricted to base. I said, okay. So I go back to my room. I said, and I'm sitting there laying in my room sleeping, and then around 6 a.m, like 3 shore patrol come in there to arrest me. I said, what do you guys do? What do you think, you're going to run away? I turned myself in. So I went to see the chief, and the chief said, why did I said, well, chief, you told me not to come back in Monday without a haircut, and I didn't have a haircut, so I didn't come in. She just shook his head. But I wanted I didn't, my brother's going to Mardi Gras in a week with his friends, and I wanted to go with him. So, so he goes, okay. He goes, why, he goes, I said, well, chief, I didn't want to, I don't know how we got into it. He goes, I'll go to bat for you. The chief says, if you cooperate with me. Of course, I wanted to.
Yeah, you wanted something from
I
him.
wanted to go to the Mardi Gras. So I said, okay, Chief, I will cooperate with you. And he says, well, we have to have a reason why you went AWOL. I said, well, a month ago, my grandfather died, and they wouldn't let me have leave because I was a 5 days deficit. I had to make up those 5 days before I would get more leave. I still had, leave owed to me if I stayed in the Navy because you get your leave as you stay in. Every
Right.
year you get
It accrues like,
a week or 2 weeks. I can't
oh,
remember
yeah.
what it is. So if you use up that, you couldn't get it. So which nowadays they would let you go if it was your grandfather, but that
Mm,
back then it was like your grandfather. That's nothing.
mm.
You can't go.
And which grandfather was this?
It was my granddad. It was my father's father, and he was my favorite grandparent because I used to love his stories. He was from Scotland. His family was from Ireland, and he was the youngest of 13. I was in a family of 14, and he was a lot of fun. He was in vaudeville, but he was also. But now he sang in the choir of the church, the Catholic Church. But anyway, I said, well, we could say that. I was just depressed about my grandfather. So the chief said, okay.
Right.
So I went before the captain's man.